Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. April of 2024 is a great time to build a gaming PC for 1440p or 4K, as PC parts and even GPU prices have come down significantly. We're going to go through three amazing builds, starting off with a $750 1440p gaming PC build, followed by a $1,000 240Hz 1440p gaming PC build, and we'll finish off with a $2,200 4K gaming and creator premium workstation. Remember, if you get value out of this video, give it a like, 'cause it makes a huge difference to the channel, and of course subscribe, click that bell icon, that way you get notified when we release cool content. With that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SSD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SSD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or 11 OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom! You have a fully licensed Windows 10 or 11 for a crazy low price. Use the links in the video description. Let's jump into that $750 1440p gaming PC build. I'm super excited about this one. This is a high performance build, pretty high performance build. You're not just gonna get 60 average FPS at 1440p across a wide range of titles. We're gonna do significantly better than that. And I finished out at $753.15. You can go a couple different ways on the build. I'll give you some options here, but let's start off with the GPU, because this is really honestly what makes it go. If you can pick up an RX 6700 XT or 6750 XT, 12GB GPU, that is definitely the one to grab for about $330. At Newegg, they only have the 6750 XT left. They only have the 6700 XT, and the 6750 XT about 6% faster than the vanilla 6700 XT. If you don't have that GPU, you can also pick up a 7600 XT. That's the next generation. Now, this one does bring AV1 encoding to the table. A little bit slower. We'll go through the performance in just a moment, but sells for the identical price for some reason for $329. Your NVIDIA options here are kind of thin. I would drop down to an RTX 3060 12GB or jump up to a 4060 Ti 16GB, but you're talking way more money for the 4060 Ti 16GB. I think your most obvious option here is to drop down to 3060 12GB for about $289. It's about a $40 price savings, but as we'll see in a moment, I'm not sure that I would cut there. Let's jump into the performance for the $750 PC build. How many FPS can you expect? Across a wide range of titles, the Techspot 12 game average, this is from their RX 7600 XT review, so it's relatively recent data here. Now remember, this is like super hard to play games at super high settings. You can turn them down from ultra to high, and on games like Fortnite, on games like League of Legends and others, you're gonna get tons and tons of frames. Pick up one of those 6700 XTs out there, you're getting an average of 76 FPS across a wide range of titles. If you're able to pick up a 7600 XT and not able to pick up a 6700 XT, you're still getting 67 average FPS, and it does bring AV1 encoding to the table, which is kind of nice. The 3060, you can basically expect about just under 60 average FPS. Again, turn it down to high settings, play easier to run titles, and you'll get a lot more FPS. Let's quickly punch through the rest of the platform. Remember, when we're building a gaming PC, we want to get the biggest, fastest graphics card we can, and then just get a CPU that's not going to bottleneck it. I really like the i5 12400F right now at $135. The reason is the Ryzen 5600, which I would normally pick here at about the same price, has gone sky high in price. I just don't see why. The performance is identical, so go with the cheaper solution, and that's this. And I love that it comes with an included stock cooler, as does the 5600. That's perfectly adequate for it, and that's what we're going to use in this build. If you want to replace this with a budget tower air cooler for anywhere from like $20 up to $30, feel free and go ahead. For the motherboard, we're gonna go simple here. ASRock B660M Pro RS. You can also go B760 as well. There's some good boards out there. This one just tends to be sit around $95, which is plenty cheap. It's got good rear I/O on it, you know, good enough rear I/O, right? For a $95 motherboard, the VRMs are good on it. I will say update the BIOS on this board to the latest non-beta version, because the earliest versions of the BIOS had a little bit of a problem with this CPU. However, they fixed it, so just update the BIOS. For the RAM, nothing fancy here, 3200 CL16, and we only need 16 gigs of RAM. Remember, you can always add more RAM. You've got 4 RAM slots on your motherboard here, so start with this. If for some reason you feel like you need more, just don't overspend on your RAM. Dump that money into the GPU. For the drive, I went with 512 gigs of storage here. I feel like you can still get away with 512 gigs of storage in 2024. Even a game like Helldivers, it's only about a 70 gig game. And with everything else and Windows and all that, you can have a couple of games on at a time on your PC. You're just gonna have to manage it. I will say if you want to spend about $20 more, $25 more, you get 1 terabyte. So it's not quite double to get 1 terabyte. It's better price to performance. But if this is kind of your hard budget limit, to Team Group MP33, 512 gigs, NVMe storage for $37, pretty good deal. The case, I know I'm wearing this one out, BitPhoenix Nova Mesh. This is just hands down one of the best price to performance cases in the budget range out there. We built our 7800 XT and Ryzen 7600 gaming PC in it. Absolutely loved it. 3 included ARGB fans, really sturdy construction on it. Comes in white or black for $57. For the power supply, if you didn't watch our best PSU 2024 video that we just dropped not too long ago, I called the MSI Mag a 550BN and a 650BN basically the savior of the budget PSU market, because these PSUs, they're solidly C tier rated on the PSU cultist list, fully sleeved black cables. They look amazing in a cutout build. And for $65, what else do you want? So for $750, you are going to get an amazingly performative 1440p gaming PC that has a future upgrade path. You could drop in a 14600K later on down the line and a faster and bigger graphics card. But right now it's going to give you tons of frames at 1440p and all the titles that you want to play. Let me give you 2 insane deals right now for the best budget 1440p gaming monitors out there. The first one is, and I just don't know how they sell this thing so cheap at $173, the ASRock Phantom PG27Q, all that nonsense up there. I hate the name, but I love the monitor. Now, this is a curved V8 panel. I know that's not for everybody, but it's an insanely good curved V8 panel. What's going on here is that ASRock is new to the gaming monitor space, and so this is one of their first monitors out there. They're having to sell these at a pretty steep discount. They just don't have the name recognition of other brands out there, but you're getting an amazing package. This has been tested, 165 hertz refresh rate to it. If you're looking for something insanely good for not a lot of money, this is the one to get. If you absolutely have to have that flat IPS 1440p gaming monitor, go no further than the Acer Nitro XV272U, back in stock at $220. I don't know what to tell you. Acer's just decided to undercut everybody else in the gaming monitor market right now at mid-range 1440p, and so they're basically selling this for a budget price, even though it's a mid-range monitor, and it's just hard to recommend anything else if you're looking for flat IPS other than this. Let's jump into that $1,000 1440p gaming PC build, and I'm super excited about this at $1,000, which has been a hard price point to hit, because any of the GPUs that we're going to be using between $400 and $500, they end up getting bottlenecked by older generation CPUs like Ryzen 5000, like locked Intel CPUs, or even unlocked 12th gen CPUs, because prices have come down, some things have changed, especially GPU prices. We're now able to hit this $1,000 price point. Let's punch through. Let's start off where else the GPU, because this is one of the big changes that's happened out there in terms of GPU pricing. We've got this Sapphire Pulse, ASRock Challenger, Power Color Fighter, all these different models of the RX 7700 XT, 12 gigabyte GPU, now hitting that $399 price point, $399. I do think it's going to continue to kind of edge lower, especially as we see like the 6750 XT kind of go out of stock. But right now, 3 different models that you can pick. I went with the Sapphire Pulse one. Honestly, any of these are pretty good. I do like the Sapphire Pulse one slightly more. The Power Color Fighter is a little bit longer and thinner GPU, if that's for you. These GPUs have 12 gigs of VRAM. Yes, we'd love 16, but 12 gigs is perfectly adequate for $400 USD. Your NVIDIA options here, unfortunately, are kind of thin. They are kind of thin. The 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte, right now, the models that had been selling for like $415, they're all gone. It's back up to $450, and that's only for 2 models. Everything else is well over MSRP, well over MSRP. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if we're running through the stock of these and they're just aren't going to be anymore. Unfortunately, the 4070, the non-super version, same story. Some of them have been floating down towards $500. Unfortunately, they've evaporated and they've all gone up to like $550 and more. At that point, you're going to get a 4070 Super instead. Your upgrade option here is the RX 7800 XT. I think we've done a number of Ryzen 7600 and 7800 XT builds, so you can check those out. But this is where you really want to go. If you have about $120 more to spend, because you also need a slightly bigger PSU for this, then this is the way to go. You get 16 gigs of VRAM, you get a super performative GPU. In fact, let's go through that performance. So this is the Techspot RTX 4070 Super review. So this is very fresh data. And you can see, let's start at the bottom. We just did a build, 6700 XT. We saw that was getting like 70, almost 80 FPS. you can see this test suite of games is actually harder because the 6700 XT now is only getting 63 average FPS. Again, super high settings. These are single player titles that are really kind of hitting those GPUs. For the 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte, you get about 68 average FPS. 68 average FPS. Look at the 7700 XT, almost 80 FPS. That's an insane difference. An insane difference for a GPU that's actually $50 cheaper. And if you want to go with that upgrade GPU, the 7800 XT, 93 FPS, just really, really good performer out there. Let's punch through the rest of the platform. We went with a Ryzen 5 7600, which is just the best price and performance gaming CPU in the mid-range right now. Hands down. Intel just has nothing to compete with this unless they massively cut prices, which I think they should do. But $199 for the Ryzen 7600, you can get it Newegg, you can Amazon. Remember, there's no difference between the 7600 and 7600X other than the 7600 comes with an included stock cooler. And you're going to want to turn on Precision Boost Overdrive. There's only a tiny little difference between the two. $199, just get the cheaper of the two. Now, I would recommend replacing the stock cooler that comes with the 7600. However, the eagle-eyed among you will note that I finished at $1,030. That's the budget I recommend you actually hit right now. And I recommend you get an aftermarket cooler like the id Cooling SC214XT, just a budget tower 4-heat pipe air cooler. And I love this one with RGB. You can actually get this one for 15% off right now. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description, but you could go with an included stock cooler if you want to save the money. For the motherboard, I went with the ASRock B650M Pro RS. Now, there's also a Wi-Fi version of this for like $15 more if you want to go that direction. The motherboard I had been recommending, which is the MSI B650M-A Pro Wi-Fi, unfortunately, after we released our Best Ryzen Motherboard 2024 video, went up in price because that was my #1 pick. This was my #2 pick. Still an insanely valuable motherboard. Really good rear panel I/O on it. It's got 3 M.2 slots on it. It's got kind of that nice white aesthetic. We use this in our Ryzen 7600 and RX 7800 XT build. I really like the motherboard overall. $134. This is another area, though, if you want to go with one of those slightly cheaper B650 motherboards and want to hit that $1,000 price point, you certainly could. For the RAM, we're just going kind of no muss, no fuss. DDR5 6000 CL30. You will not find kits smaller than 2 by 16 gigabytes, so 32 gigabytes total, on the market at these speeds. This is a non-RGB kit right now for $95, about what they're going for if you don't find a sale. Remember, it's linked down in the video description. This is absolutely fine. If you want an RGB kit, I'll link an alternative one down there as well. It's about $15 more. For the drive, we're just going a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. I went with a Silicon Power A60. I've used a ton of these drives. I absolutely love them. $60. This is about as cheap as you can find 1 terabyte. Yes, SSD storage has gone up. You could get a drive like this for like $38 during Black Friday. Unfortunately, they've gone up, and we hear that the price of storage will continue to go up this year, so grab it while you can. For the case, I went with a Deepcool CC360 ARGB. It's a micro ATX case, so if you have a full-size ATX motherboard, get something else, obviously, but we're using a micro ATX motherboard, so this $59 with a $5 promo code for $54. This is a great case. I absolutely love this case. It comes white and black, 3 included ARGB fans. Got the PSU shroud on it. Looks amazing. Not much else to say. For the PSU, we went simple here. We went with a C-tier rated PSU, the MSI Mag A650BN, $65. Now, again, here's another area if you wanted to step up in terms of the power supply, and you probably will need to with a 7800 XT if you do upgrade the GPU. I'd go with a 750. You can get an A-tier rated 750 watt for more like $89, so like another $24 or something like that. Otherwise, I think this is all you need. So all told there, $1,029 as I've kitted out. If you want to cut the cooler, go with a slightly cheaper motherboard, you can hit $1,000, no problem, with this 1440p gaming PC that's going to give you tons and tons of frames, and it's going to have a future upgrade path when Ryzen 9000, 10,000, whatever they call the next generation of Ryzen CPUs comes out as well. Really amazing value for just about $1,000. Let's throw in some 240Hz 1440p gaming monitors into the mix here. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's going on with 240Hz 1440p gaming monitors right now. Prices have absolutely skyrocketed on most models that I was recommending as early as just a couple months ago. They've kind of gone bonkers. But there are 2 out there right now that are great deals. The first one is the one I continue to recommend, the AOC CQ27G3Z. It's a 27-inch 1440p 240Hz gaming monitor, and yes, it's curved, it's VA, it's reminiscent of the Samsung Odyssey G7, the old 1440p one. I really do like it. It's got really good contrast to it, really good motion handling. Overall, it's a nice monitor, and I really like the price at $300. The other one to take a look at, of course, if you want flat IPS 240Hz is the HP Omen 27QS right now at $349. Now listen, this and some of the other IPS models have been on sale for as low as $299, but they haven't been there for quite a while. So right now, this is the best one. I gave you that whole list in our best gaming monitor video. I said, just pick the cheapest one. Right now, that's this one. It's got great motion handling. If you want 240 hertz at 1440p and you want the best deal today, this is it. Let's jump into the $2,200 4K Ultra Gaming and Creator PC. So we've got tons of RAM in this thing. We've got tons of storage. We've got tons of CPU power as well, and a high-end GPU. So if you're somebody who wants to be a high-end professional creator and you want a super gaming system, this is possibly the one for you. Let's talk about the budget. I finished it at $2,231.64. Now listen, there's a lot of different ways you can go on this. I decided to go with something that also has nice RGB, that's liquid cooled, that has a lot of high-end motherboard features to it that creators would like. But let's start where else? The GPU. Again, a lot of different things we could have gone with here. I went with the RTX 4070 Ti Super 16 gigabyte GPU. We'll talk about the alternative in just a moment. I like the 4070 Ti Super because to me, 16 gigs of VRAM, this is the real 4080. To me, this was the real 4080. It costs about $100 more than the 3080 did when it came out. Remember, 3080 only had 10 gigs of VRAM. This has 16. That was $699. This is about $799 for MSRP models. And if you want to spend just a little bit more, you can get one of the more premium models. Go right ahead. You can get including the white one right now for $829. Its main competitor, of course, is the RX 7900 XT, 20 gigabytes. Now, no real difference between 16 and 20 gigabytes. It is nice to have the extra memory, but no real gaming difference between the two. It is about $100 cheaper, $699 for something like the Sapphire Pulse, which is one of the better models out there right now. You can also get the white one, the ASRock Phantom Gaming one, for just about $700 as well. So a little bit more of a price discount. How much FPS can you get with this build for $2,200? Let's jump into Techspot's RTX 4070 Ti Super review. This is a 12 game average, 1440p. Remember, these are harder to run titles at ultra settings. You can always turn it down to just high settings and probably look almost the same and get a lot more frames. They got 120 average FPS at 1440p. The 7900 XT, it is a better performer overall in terms of rasterization. 127. It's not worlds better, but it is slightly ahead in most titles. Bumping over to 4K. So this is the 4K data. The 7900 XT, and we find this generally with the 7000 series versus the 4000 NVIDIA series. The 7000 series scales better. Last generation was completely the opposite. The RTX 3000 series scaled better than the 6000 series for AMD. But this generation, for whatever reason, is kind of flipped on its head. So we got 75 average FPS for the 7900 XT, and 68 average FPS for the 4070 Ti Super. Remember, this is super high settings on these. And I will say, in terms of creator differences, not much differences in terms of video editing or anything like that. The one program where you will find a difference is Blender. AMD GPUs, for whatever reason, aren't as good in Blender as NVIDIA GPUs are. So if you're a pro doing Blender renders, then I would grab an NVIDIA GPU. For any amateur level work or kind of any of its normal human beings, probably wouldn't notice the difference between the two. Let's quickly punch through the rest of the platform. I really like the i7-14700K here for $389. If you watch our best CPU for gaming, we continuously say, if you want to do high-end work right now, and you want to have a PC that's probably going to last you for 3 to 5 years, this is a great CPU to get. Yes, LGA 1700, this is the end of the socket basically, but again, this is going to last you a long time. And this is a super performance CPU for just $389. In terms of the cooler, look, let's get all the cooling basically. Let's go with the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 360 ARGB. This comes in all white and it comes in black as well. We're going to go with a black theme in this build. You can certainly buy all the parts that we're buying right now in white except for the motherboard. $107 is an insane value. This is a super high performance cooler. It's going to keep our CPU nice and cool, and it's got that cool VRM fans. Not that our VRMs on this motherboard are going to need it. The good news is for a CPU like this, high-end Z690 and even Z790 motherboards are on fire sale. They're just trying to get them out the door, and these have tons of great features that creators would absolutely love. This has 5 M.2 slots. This is an MSI Mega Ace for $236. This motherboard was more like $600, $700, $800 when it came out. There's not really anything that you need that you can't get with it. Look at the rear I/O panel. It's insane. It's got multiple Thunderbolt ports on it. It's got tons of USBs on it. This super high speed. It's got dual LAN. It's got upgraded audio. Just absolutely insane motherboard. I will say the only thing I didn't like about working with the X670 version of this when we put together our video editing rig is I didn't love that they've moved the EPS power cables up here to the top right. Normally they're at the top left of the motherboard. Did make it kind of a pain in the rear in terms of cable routing, but I got a good case to take care of that. For the RAM, I went with the G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB, $214 for 64 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs. Now you don't want to necessarily go 4 sticks with some of these Intel high speeds. With some of these Intel setups, they have a harder time in terms of the traces on the motherboard. If you need more RAM, I would just get bigger DIMMs basically. That's why I've gone 2 by 32 gigs here, DDR5 6000 CL30, and it's gonna look amazing with the RGB. The storage, you can do a number of different things. There are 5 M.2 slots on there. I've decided to add 1 drive here just to kind of keep the cost somewhere reasonable. Storage can get quickly out of hand, but get what you need. I went with the Team Group MP34 4TB for $225. That's like $55 per terabyte. That's cheaper than buying 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte sticks. It's insane. Yes, Gen 3 drive, but it's got DRAM on it. That to me makes all the difference. Buy these while you can, because I don't think this price is gonna stay forever. For the case, I went with a case I really love, the Lian Li Landcool 216. I went with the black RGB one, so it comes with 2 160 millimeter RGB fans, and it's gonna run a lot quieter, especially for a build like this. It's gonna need some more airflow. Those fans, because they're bigger fans, they don't have to spin as fast to move the same amount of airflow, so you won't hear them over the other ones. The rear fan is it's a black fan. If you want to replace it with an RGB one, feel free. I'm just going to go as is. Some of the things I absolutely love about this case is you can take this whole case apart. So you can actually take the top off when you're mounting that AIO, and it makes it so much easier to build in. I absolutely love it, and it's only $106. For the PSU, some people say 1200 watts, maybe a little overkill here. I just basically took the rated draw in PC Part Picker and multiplied by 1.5. We get about 1100 watts. There's really no 1100 watt PSU, so we're going to go to 1200 watts. We're going to get what is going to be effectively an A tier rated PSU on the PSU Cultist list as soon as they update the list, because it has had some reviews out there, and that's the Be Quiet Pure Performance Power 12M. This is a 1200 watt. It's super silent, fully modular. It's going to have the 12 volt high power connector for your NVIDIA GPU, so you can plug it directly in. You don't need the adapter or anything. $149 is dirt cheap for this amount of power. So all told, $2,200.31. You are going to get a super high performance and very premium, very, very premium production and 4K gaming and creator PC system. Tons of motherboard features for creators out there, tons of RAM out there, tons of storage, and you're going to get high performance that you need in all those games at 4K. Let's run some great monitor deals right now. Let's start off with 4K 144 Hertz. This is an LCD panel. This is the Gigabyte M28U. This is the same monitor I'm using right now to shoot this video. I love this monitor, 28 inch, and it's got HDMI 2.1. So if you have a PS5 or you have an Xbox Series X, you want to plug these in and you want to get 4K 120 Hertz, it'll do that as well. Great color on it, great brightness on it. Not much else to say except $399 is about the lowest price I've seen since Black Friday. If you're hoping more for OLED, let me give you my top OLED 360 Hertz pick. And for some reason, the 360 Hertz ones that are just coming out are cheaper than the 240 Hertz from last year. I don't really understand. Just go out and buy the Alienware AW2725DF. All the goodness of OLED on it, including incredible contrast to it or infinite contrast, instantaneous response times, and that really amazing HDR goodness to it as well. I will also say the text clarity has gotten way better on this kind of next generation of OLED monitors, so you could even get away with using this as a full-time panel if you want to just do creative work, even some text work on it as well. $899 right now. Yes, I know there's some coming that are supposedly going to be cheaper. I haven't been able to find them anywhere in the US, so I will grab this one. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description, so check out those links for current pricing and availability in your region. And if you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. And we'll catch you on the next one.